Good afternoon. Yes. Welcome to Sport Beach Clubhouse. This is a sports venue, so I expect to hear the sounds of fans. There we go. So I'm Damian Journey. I'm the Global Chief Growth Officer at 72 and Sunny. If you don't know who we are, we're a strategic and creative agency, and we like to do really cool shit. Luckily, we have brands that let us do that. So, I have the distinct pleasure of having some amazing panelists join me today. So when I introduce these folks, I need you to give each one of them a lot of love and attention. Are you guys with me on that? There we go. All right, so first up, I have somebody that spent 5 years at Sun Microsystems, 7 years at Johnson & Johnson, 11 and a half years at Invisalign. She's repositioned the brand from what some might call a stodgy medical device brand to a consumer lifestyle brand, integrating it into culture, delivering storytelling through the mouths of confident users. One of the smartest marketers in the game, a big 49ers and Warriors fan, hailing from Cupertino, California, Vice President of Global Invisalign brand, Kamal Bhandal. That's you. Super impressive. All right. Well, next up, we have someone that has started this beautiful business called SMAC Entertainment. It's a talent management firm, business incubator, and Emmy-nominated production company that she co-founded with Michael Strahan in 2011. Her talent roster includes Michael Strahan, Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, Aaron Andrews, Deanna Flores, MJ Acosta, Common, Wiz Khalifa, Shador Sanders, Shiloh Sanders, and Heisman Trophy winner Travis Hunter. She's launched product lines for Aaron Andrews and Michael Strahan, fashion lines with Snoop and his wife, a pet line with Snoop Doggy Dogs, and blenders with the coach. She produces TV shows, many you've seen and heard of. She's a fan of all the teams because she's got all the brands associated with them and all the athletes associated with them. Hailing from Yonkers, New York, co-founder and CEO of SMAC Entertainment, Constance Schwartz-Morini. This last person is somebody you might have heard of or seen at one point in time. He's arguably the person that's had the most productive 10 seasons a running back has ever had. He played with the Detroit Lions in 1989 through 1998. In his pro career, this is gonna take a while, so get comfortable. NFL Most Valuable Player, 2-time Offensive Player of the Year, NFL Rookie of the Year, 6-time All-Pro, 10 Pro Bowls, 4 times NFL champion. He was 1990s All-Decade team. He was on the 100th anniversary NFL team. That's just pros. Let's talk about college just so you're clear that it didn't just start when he got to the league. Heisman Trophy winner at Oklahoma State, unanimous All-American. His jersey's retired. He's in 5 Hall of Fames: Kansas, Michigan, Oklahoma, the College Football Hall of Fame, and the Pro Football Hall of Fame. This guy hails from Kansas, but actually lives in the great state of Michigan. My man, Hall of Famer, Barry Sanders. Thank you. Well, as you can tell, I am the least impressive person on this panel. And I'm okay with that because I get a chance to sit with these awesome people. So we're gonna have a conversation today about sports through the lens of pro and college because the landscape is changing. And these are people who are intimately familiar with it. So let's start with NIL. Name, image, and likeness has changed how we think about college players and what they do and how they get compensated. Historically, they've not been compensated, only through their scholarships. But most people think that most of the deals for NIL players are huge, when in fact, according to NIL Daily, very few people actually get NIL deals. And those that do, 37% are in college football, 15% are in basketball, and then women's basketball, men's baseball, and women's softball round out the group, 7% each. The total annual earnings of these college athletes is only $22,000 for NIL deals, average. But Constance, however, you represent some gentlemen in Shador and Shiloh Sanders and Travis Hunter who have deals that are a little bit larger. I think it's $5.2 million valued for Travis, $6.2 for Shador. How do these deals work, number one? And then secondly, how do you get those guys so paid?
I can neither confirm nor deny those numbers.
Those numbers, okay.
But one thing I always like to just make sure everybody understands the difference is there's the NIL, which are the brand partnerships with people like you, and then there's the collectives. So that's the money, and obviously that's all changing, but that's what each college, now has a fund basically that they go to their donors and hit them up again and say we need even more money, and that's how they were legally paying the kids to come to those schools. So I like to just specifically address the NIL piece of it.
Okay.
I'm sure when you were playing, you wish this was going on, especially. But
I do.
I think for student athletes, I 150% believe that they should be able to be compensated with brand partners, like Invisalign, 1,000%. It's where it gets murky is on the collective side. So I think we're all seeing the change coming. But look, for us, it happened right when Coach Prime took over, first at Jackson State and then obviously Colorado. So it was like learn as you go. So there was no blueprint and we couldn't say let's compare it to some of our Hall of Famers. You had to really just figure it out. But when they were able to dominate on the field as well as off the field, this season, actually at Jackson State and Colorado, coaches' teams had the highest GPAs in history. So those are the things that I think everybody also looks into. And whether it was Travis or Shador or Shiloh, they understand the game and they understand the brands, and that's something that's been new for us is dealing with student athletes who have such a clear vision of what their brand is. That's been great, but it's also been a challenge because you're not used to a 19-year-old straight up telling you this is how it's going to go.
Yeah, so it puts you in a position where you have to navigate what their needs and desires are. How do you engage with brands to find them partners that work best for them?
Fortunately, at SMAC, we have a sales division, so we're already working with all of our Hall of Famers or current athletes, so it was great for us to then be able to just add the outreach. But look, it's not an incoming call business. I wish it was, and very rarely does somebody make a call specifically for the talent, but it's just constantly hitting up all the agencies and what you guys host in Cannes, Lion, that is so valuable. It truly is. I can't stress enough to my talent how important it is to have a presence there. So it's a lot of networking and a lot of outreach.
Excellent. Well, Kamal, you're the brand person here. You are in a position to sign athletes to deals and things of the sort. You're partnering with lots of sports. You're an NFL partner, an official NFL sports partner. Tell us about the other partnerships you have in sports, and then we can talk about how you think about the NIL landscape and the pro landscape.
Sure. So in addition to the NFL, where we've got more than 500 NFL players across all 32 teams using Invisalign, we're partnering with many other athletes, and one of whom is in this room today, Miss Deanna Flores, who's a rock star.
Yes!
Yeah!
Look at those teeth. That smile is perfect.
So really for us, it's about going to where our audience is. So whether it's Gen Z that we're trying to connect in with or Gen Alpha, we very much want to make sure that we are partnering with athletes across all the different types of sports. We have Team Invisalign with elite high school basketball players, right? Jazzy Davidson, part of the Invisalign crew. We're very excited about her. We've got elite high school soccer players. We work with the Overtime team with their OT7 franchise as well. But for us, what's really important is that the authentic storytelling is there and that the authentic connection to the brand is there, because there's nothing more powerful than the story coming from an athlete or a player and talking about it through their lens. And what we really look for is to make sure that that brand alignment is there. And fortunately for us, especially on the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha side, almost everyone can use some sort of orthodontic treatment, and we really want to make sure that kids and teens and their parents understand that Invisalign is a choice for them as well.
That's great, because I just signed an 8th grader.
Okay, well, we love that, so we've got to talk.
In basketball, too, so.
And I think like this conversation here is really important just from the brand side. So many of the deals, the sponsorships, the relationships have been born from conversations like this one, right? I saw Deanna at Cannes and I said, okay, well, we should talk and we've got to work together. But I think it speaks to the importance of what you were talking about earlier, Constance, in terms of having presence in culture to make sure that we're present from a brand side of point of view and we're accessible.
1,000%. And there's 2 points. One is a lot of times our clients will even post on social media a brand that they just love, and that's how it happens, which is amazing. But one thing about every client at SMAC, when they're signing with us, I say, if you're coming in for the money for a brand, don't do it. I'm like, I want to make sure that this is a brand you would use for free, because those are the partnerships that you never even look at the contract, and there's renewals, and it goes on and on. So we're speaking the same language, which is nice.
To spend just 2 minutes, if you will, talking about what Invisalign is, because some people may not be as familiar. So just touch about what it is and exactly why it resonates with the younger demographic, why a young girl, a young woman might be interested in having such a tool.
Sure. So think about Invisalign. I think functionally everyone can appreciate. We all grew up with braces as a way to straighten teeth. Invisalign,
nobody wanted braces,
the
right?
digital way to do it. But what we really think about, the backbone of the Invisalign brand has always been about confidence, and it still continues to be about confidence. And so when you think about young girls as an example, to your point, Damien, we always think about the confidence crisis that's going on with young girls, particularly here at Sport Beach. I think it's relevant to state the stat that always gets me. 50% of girls drop out of sports before the age of 14, not because of skill, but because of body confidence issues, right? And if that stat doesn't get you, let's go with the next one. 55% of young girls in 5th and 6th grade in the US do not have the confidence to believe that they can achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve at that point in time. So when we think about that, when I think about that, I really think not only can we play a role functionally in that smile, but we've got an important role to play on the emotional side to help elevate that confidence. And so that's a big part of our positioning and the work that we do in the marketplace to really make sure that we're having a positive impact in that story.
Yeah, I think Coach Prime said if you look good, you feel good. If you feel good, you play good. If you play good, they pay good.
Boom.
So it starts with that smile. Confidence is a critical part of the story. There's a gentleman here who has never had a problem with confidence. Despite his immense humility, your career is told, the stories have been told over and over about your success. But outside of just that, you're a dad of 4 boys. They've played ball, one of which at least played high school ball and went to the NFL. The other one I think is at Michigan State and played ball. I went to Michigan, so I won't hold that against you, Barry. But outside of that, these were very accomplished men. You were one of them. You've raised some as well. None of them got paid for their immense talent until they got to the pros. Tell me how you see the landscape as somebody who could have commanded millions if NIL had been available for you in college, and how you kind of think about the landscape in the modern era.
What I think about is where were you when I was in college? I could have really used you.
What you don't remember is I worked at the NFL at the height of your career, so there were some deals we brought your way.
Right.
So I made up for it.
My youngest son is senior in high school. He's headed to college next year. He's a little bit involved in an NIL deal as well.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure I didn't leave out Noah Sanders.
I'm so sorry for that.
But no, I mean it's really amazing just to see the transformation that these kids today get to grow up with NIL, right? I mean, as a real thing, and because we've been talking about not NIL, but just how can you compensate, college players for how many generations. I remember, the conversation going on long before I was in college, and so I see it just sort of as the natural evolution of what was going to happen. I think, there's a lot of entities that's been sort of knocking at that door for many, many years, and I won't get into the fact that, no, we didn't have NIL, but there was a lot of stuff going on. A lot of conversation happening, off the books.
Off the books,
and all that kind of stuff. And so it's great that the parties were able to get together and make this happen for the kids. It's not perfect. I think the system will, hopefully it will continue to like perfect itself.
Yeah.
And like just like she pointed out, there's a difference between NIL and collective and all that stuff, and so we have to become, familiar with the language and how it operates. But as a parent of a kid who's going away to college, it's something else to have to wrap your arms around and deal with. I have a son. My son who's a junior at Michigan State on the basketball team. He's a walk-on.
Okay.
All right, right. So he's not on scholarship, but he still has been able to benefit from
Okay.
NIL, which I was like, are you kidding me? He's a walk-on, and he's getting compensated better than I did as a scholarship athlete. Are you kidding?
Yeah, like-
Anyways, I'm beside the point. But it's wonderful for the world of sports. And I think kids will they're growing up with it. So it's something they have to manage, right? Something they have to deal with. But it's a net benefit for families and kids and for schools and all that. And so bravo.
Do you think it impacts the game at all? The college game or the program? The program. Do you think there's like any positive or negative dynamics associated with paying college players?
Yeah, yes, it impacts it. Yeah, yes. I mean, we had a kid in Michigan this year, top quarterback, right?
Bryce
who
Underwood.
was committed to LSU for many years, and then Michigan, put together $10 million or whatever it was.
Go Blue.
To lure him away from LSU. So to answer your question, absolutely, and a lot of those scenarios have happened. Maybe that you haven't heard about, where kids have changed their mind, what have you, or decided to leave schools. I mean, so yes, I mean, there's a lot of ways where it has impacted the game. I don't know that I can't say whether it's a net negative or net positive. You would hope, and what I try to explain to my son is, hopefully you play the game because you enjoy the game, you love the game, you love the relationships, you love the competition. That it's not all about NIL, but that's just me talking to one kid.
Yeah.
I'm sure, whatever your motivation is, I mean, that's great. But that's just, but it certainly will have a big impact on the game. Yes.
I echo that, and also when a recruit comes to meet with Coach Prime, if one of the first questions is, what's my bag? He's like, you're out. He said, of course you're going to get compensated, but look who we're sitting next to, hello in the back, like you have the Hall of Famers sitting up here.
Yeah.
So it's like how they approach it is also going to impact their skills on the field. And some of those kids who might be amazing players, it's going to catch up with them at some point because they're not putting the game before the bag.
I love that. We get a chance to work with a lot of NFL players and other athletes as well, but there's a few that we can't work with because they said, I'm too committed to the game right now. I'll worry about brand deals and advertising and commercial activities afterwards. Right now I'm here to play my sport. And I have to respect that 100%. So I want to come back to you on a subject. You've launched clothing lines, you do movies and documentaries, and
I'm trying to keep up with JB.
yeah, there's a lot of cool things you have going on. What advice would you give brands in doing deals with athletes and celebrities, be it product deals or production deals or strict partnerships? What advice do you have for brands in navigating
So
that
on the
space?
brand side, you already said it, authenticity. If the potential talent does not use it, like if you know that the rep is saying, look, they'll do it, but they're not going to drink the pop that's in the can, they're going to put water in it, you don't want it. Like you don't, because you already know they don't really believe in it. So that's so important, is if it's a brand that they already are going to use or they believe in it. On the production side, I mean, Barry right here, to me, is just the epitome. Like, I worked at the NFL when you played, but I learned so much about you and your family on your doc on Prime Video. If you haven't seen it, it's still streaming.
It's amazing.
It's so good, and I was in awe of just how much I didn't know and how much I learned, and my respect for you grew even more. And if I'm wearing two hats, so that's from the production side, but on the talent side, that's what we try to explain to not just clients, but if there's somebody that we're trying to pitch a doc on, it doesn't matter how much they're paying you, because the ancillary that comes from that, especially the younger generation today, they might not know the level of talent and the play that you had, and then all of a sudden now they're like, wait a minute, it's like it's fresh discovery. So yes, of course, everyone should be compensated for their time. I'm not saying that, but that shouldn't be what drives you, because to me, you're reaching a global audience now with these streamers, and hopefully JB pulled in even more deals for you that you already have.
Well, I'd love to, so I think that's an excellent point about the value of documentaries, not just being on the front end, but also the long-term residual benefit of the person that's being documented. There's a benefit that people don't always understand, so thanks for shaking that out. I want to ask you the same question, though, from a brand side. Where do you see the value in partnering with leagues, partnering with producers who are creating great documentaries? How do you evaluate that opportunity, and which ones are worth your time?
So first and foremost, it goes back to the talent, always, right? Do they have an interest in using the product, using Invisalign for their smile? That always has to be true, because when that's not true, the storytelling is not as great, right? The passion is not as great. We're fortunate that Invisalign is in the business of creating smiles, right? And that confidence is always going to shine through.
That's a
if you
good
don't
business.
use that product, it's not going to work. But I think that the second thing that we always think about is, especially on the NIL side, is how do we be a part of culture? How do we be integrated into communities? And one of the things we look for as a brand that is trying to connect in with Gen Z, Gen Alpha, is that co-creation component, right? I'm not a teenager, clearly, but in order to be a brand that is relevant for teens, and especially on the NIL side with players, we want to be a brand for them, by them. And so we always look for the engagement on the player side to see what their level of interest is in helping us tell that story, because it's not our story to tell, it's their story to tell that we just have, I'd say, the pleasure and the opportunity to be a part of.
100%. It's interesting because your particular industry, your particular category is one that everybody can find a use for, right? Nobody wants a bad smile. That may not be the case when it comes to athletic wear or a certain type of shoe, but I haven't met a person yet that says, I really want bad teeth and an awful smile. It just doesn't seem to be the case. So you're in a good position, I would say.
I think so, and I think, but that always hasn't been true, right? So I've been with the brand for 11 plus years, and 11 and a half years ago, when I would reach out to athletes, to players, to artists, they would say, yeah, would love to use your product, but no thank you, I don't want a deal, right? And I think what that really spoke to was we needed to become much more relevant in their lives, relevant into culture, into communities, which is why we're so passionate about connecting in the NIL space or in sports, music, entertainment.
I think you've become such a part of culture. It's rare that you're not at a meal with someone where they're like, excuse me, and they have to pop their Invisalign out and put it in their little case. Like,
exactly.
That's the cultural zeitgeist. I mean, no one's embarrassed anymore going to the bathroom to take it out.
So you mentioned Barry's documentary, which if you haven't seen it again, make sure you go watch it. It's excellent. You learn more about a person that you've watched your whole life in an hour and a half than you did the whole time you've known them or thought you knew them. What was it like for you to be documented, and how has that affected your family, you and your family going forward?
Well, I mean, it put a little strain between me and my agent because he really twisted my arm. But beside that, other than that, no, I mean, honestly, like, oh no, don't hand him the mic. No, do not hand him.
Don't hand him the mic.
But to answer your question, no, it was really fantastic to be able to tell the story and to take my time on my terms, I guess, and really talk about a lot of the people that were important to me. You know, my dad, who I lost in 2011. I mean, he's heavily featured on there, and he's such a big part of who I am and, you know, my career and just, you know, who I have become. And then other personalities who I didn't necessarily know, you know, I didn't know how big of a fan like Eminem was or Jeff Daniels or guys like that, you know,
Yeah.
who watch him from afar, who have a connection with Michigan and, you know, and then my sons, they love, going to London and filming that part of it. They treated us like kings over there. But really just taking my time to tell my story in that sort of way, in that sort of format, was enjoyable, and it was great to partner with NFL and Amazon, so yeah, I'm glad I was able to do it. It was, it's not something that I would have always done. I don't think. Just like you were saying, how some guys, just not necessarily ready to tell a story, or not necessarily ready for whatever their own reasons. And so for me, the timing was right. And I think it came out well. And my mom loved it.
Did you pick your first director, or did you have to meet with a few people? Because that's so important. I don't think people realize. Like, the director's spending so much time and has to develop trust. So I just wonder if you liked your director out of the gate.
No, I liked him. Yeah, I liked it. For this, it worked out this particular time. But I understand what you're saying. But yes, it was pretty much the first guy, and it worked out that way this particular time. Yes.
Well, you raised a really interesting point, Barry, and which is you were able to tell your story your own way through your own lens. And so often athletes don't get that benefit. Like, one of the reasons that I think Sport Beach works so well is that we give athletes an opportunity to share their story from stages unfiltered. And so you learn so much more about people than you would have if you only watch ESPN clips, which I do a lot. It's not the same level of interaction, and they don't get a chance to share their voice. So many athletes are now involved in personal brand building or building individual brands as entrepreneurs, that a format like this, I think, really lends itself to that and to great partnerships. So to say that you met Deanna at Sport Beach is outstanding. We met her through the lens of having her in one of our commercials a few years ago. She was a star, is a star. But these moments of collision aren't easy to come by. And I think the value of it partially is you get a chance to be authentic and share your own story.
100%.
Yeah. So I'm curious to know, as you all think about how the landscape is changing, where do you think we're headed next?
So I think, Constance, you said this earlier. I think when you look at Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they are so much more intentional about building their own brand and also being really clear about what do they expect from brands. And so what I really see as I look forward is, gone are the days when the brand decided what it was that our story, what we wanted our story to be. I think it's really going to be a lot more about co-creation with the community that we want to be a part of. And I think Gen Z and Gen Alpha is going to accelerate all of us in the industry in a way that we otherwise would not have thought about.
Perfect. Constance?
I agree. And then for me, it would be on the production side of the business is owning your IP. We bought the hour leading into the Super Bowl pregame show this weekend, so noon Eastern time. We partnered with Mike Madden, and we have the Madden Cruiser taking you on a tour through the bayou with Coach Belichick, Strahan, Tom Brady, Aaron Andrews, Roxy Diaz. But we were able to bring Toyota in as the presenting sponsor and Booking.com as a title sponsor. So the fact that we own that hour, we produced it with NFL Films, with Ever Wonder Studios, have the brand partners and the talent, like that, we should talk.
Well, I was just going to plus one on that for a second, right? Because the next piece of this conversation, because we had the relationship already with Deanna, your team called mine, on the way to the Super Bowl, on the plane, we texted about buying property during that show, right? So we just bought ad space on the plane, on the ride over. That is how business is done.
Look at that. That's how business gets done.
Thank you. I think those were the last spots remaining too, so thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So you know, Constance, I work really hard with some of our brand partners to get some of those the inventory spots sold.
Did I just beat you to it?
You did. Yeah, you're faster than I am.
It's scary because we're a small independent company.
That's right.
We don't have the big private equity behind us. So it's like, Reed Bergman is another friend who literally helped us get 6 spots in the show because otherwise it's on us. And that's something you don't really think about. So it was a great proof of concept. And thanks to you, we'll break even. So thank you.
Well, we're excited to see it. For those of you who are not going to the game, make sure you tune in. It's going to be excellent.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to it. So Barry, over to you real quick. Where do you see kind of the future of NIL, pro athletes, college athletes, student athletes going in the future? Any thoughts, any perspective?
I mean, we're very early in this sort of marriage. It'll be interesting just to see how it impacts the game, if at all. You know, my generation and before, you know, we grew up and those weren't options, and it didn't, you know, so it wouldn't impact, you know, your performance. But how will it impact what's going on the court or on the field or whatever else? You know, hopefully, like I said before, it'll perfect itself. The kids will realize what kind of a gym that they actually have in this.
Yeah.
You know, this great opportunity. You know, because it's been needed for so long, and you know, hopefully, it's not something that they'll, you know, they take for granted.
Totally.
You know, that they'll take for granted that it's such an amazing thing to be able to have this entity where, you know, there's so many resources available for all parties involved, and you just wonder, okay, you know, when you're 17, 18, I mean, how much can you really grasp hold of this concept?
Yeah.
You know, but that's why you have great partners.
Totally.
Like this young lady right here, you know, and others. And so that's kind of how I see it. I'm just, you know, again, as a parent of college athletes, I know how, you know, we sort of try to handle it and manage it, but there's so much going on, like the Bryce Underwood thing. I mean, you hope that it doesn't, you know, have a negative impact on the game, on the product, the final product that you put on the field. I don't think. I mean, you look at like the Colorado Bucks this year, the excitement and energy around that team, and obviously Deion, he's heavily involved in all that. He's embracing, you know, all the new changes. Right?
Totally.
And then you see how some coaches, we don't have to mention their name, who said, that's enough for me.
Yeah.
I'm out. I've had enough. I've had enough.
Yeah.
You know, and so it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
Well, it's football. It's a football season. We're here for a big game that's happening in a few days. So we're going to do a 2-minute drill. I want you all to answer the question quickly. We'll get through all of them, and we'll get down the field. Are you guys ready?
Ready for it.
All right. So starting to my immediate left, who's going to win the Super Bowl?
Patrick Mahomes all the way.
Oh.
Team Invisalign.
Team Invisalign, Patrick. No bias. I get it. Okay. Who's going to win the Super Bowl?
The best team.
Oh, my goodness. Just when I thought she couldn't figure.
I have sports. I have Wear by Aaron Andrews and MSX. We love everybody.
Okay. Barry, who's going to win the Super Bowl?
I mean, it's hard to beat Taylor Swift, but I'm going to go with Saquon Barkley.
Yeah. Yes, Saquon. Okay. Is Saquon going to jump over someone backwards in the game?
He could, yeah.
He could. It could happen again. Okay. Next quick question. So, are you coming to Sport Beach this June?
Yes, sir.
Are you coming to Sport Beach this June?
Is this an invite?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Are you coming to Sport Beach this June?
I'll be there.
All right. You hear that? There we go. And maybe the most important question of all, if you don't know, Barry Sanders and I have a lot in common. We're about the same height. We're about the same weight. We have the exact same birthday. We're both from the great state of Michigan, or at least we have a connection to the great state of Michigan. Do you think I can beat Barry in a foot race?
No.
No.
You asking me?
Yeah.
What's your 40 time?
Well, that's a detail we don't need to talk about. Well, anyway, thank you all so much.
But I have gifts for you.
Oh, you have gifts for us? I thought the 72.
That's your gift to us. This
I
is my
thought these
gift to you.
beads were a gift enough. What? This is why you hang out with Constance. You get merch. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. What? It's not every day you get drip. What? Outstanding. Thank you so much, Constance. You're the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, look, this is what happens when you come to Sport Beach Clubhouse. Cool things happen all the time. For all of you out there, thanks for spending time with us today. There's a long list of awesome talks for the rest of the day. There's content studio, there's food. Spend your time here for the next couple days. I guarantee you'll have a good time. Thank you all so much.